Still. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Bristol Township Zoning Hearing Board. I'd like to get started. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remove your hats. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let me introduce you to a few people before we get started. To my left is our solicitor, Keith Bidleymeyer. We have Director of L&I, Bob McTeague, and sitting in for Cindy Oliveira. Our stenographer is Kim Chatborn today. Mr. Secretary, call the board, please.
Gerard Lycon.
Here.
Jim McMahon.
Here.
Colleen Dunn.
Here.
Ed Murphy. Here.
Okay, before we get started on the agenda, I got a couple, some stuff we have to take care of here. So this is, anybody here for number 5 on the agenda? This is addressed from Michael McGinnis, the attorney for number 5, to Keith Bidleymeyer. Per our call, please allow this correspondence to serve as a continuance request to August 12th, which is now going to be July 22nd, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay. With respect to the pending application on Nebraska Street, we are adding a variance, revising the plan to capture the same. This will also serve as an extension of the applicable MPC timelines through August, which is now July. Okay, let me know if you need anything else. Thanks, Mike McGinnis, Esquire. All right, so what I need from the board is a motion for a continuance for this application for July 22nd.
I'll give a motion for that.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Call the board.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Jim McMahon.
Yes.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Ed Murphy. Yes.
Okay, next is number 6 on the agenda. So if anybody's here for number 6 on the agenda, they'll not be hearing their application tonight. This is also addressed to our solicitor, Keith Bidleymeyer, from Michael McGinnis, Esquire. Just spoke with Bob, referring to Director of L&I, McTeague. We are requesting this matter to be tabled as well. We're working to analyze options to relocate, modify the existing structure, which is subject of this application. Please also take this correspondence as an extension of the MPC timelines through August. Okay, motion. I need a motion from the board, please, on a continuance for August.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Call the board.
Colleen Dunn.
Yes.
Jim McMahon.
Yes.
Gerard Lycon.
Yes.
Ed Murphy. Yes.
Okay, that's it for zoning board business for now. We're going to go right to the agenda. Number 1 on the agenda is Jennifer Acosta, 45 Openwood Lane, Levittown. Please come on up. Okay, you can proceed.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Jackman. I'm an attorney with Federal and Mandio. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Jennifer Acosta. She's the owner of 45 Openwood Lane in Levittown. She owns a property that is 0.2 acres and it's located in the R3 district. We're here today to request a variance related to Jennifer's replacement of a front yard fence that was pre-existing along the property when she purchased the home. Specifically, the property sits along a bend on Openwood Road, such that the entire backyard of the property is basically within the side yard. There was an existing pool and fence when Jennifer purchased the home about 5 years ago, and since she purchased the home 5 years ago, the home began to deteriorate quite quickly. There have been multiple occasions My mic on, I'm sorry. It's not green. Better? There we go. Thank you. Since she purchased the home, the existing wood fence began to deteriorate rather quickly, and there have been multiple occasions where falling limbs have destroyed portions of the fence as well. She recently replaced the fence that was deteriorating with a new vinyl fence, and the new fence is in exactly the same place as the old fence, and it is exactly the same height. If you take a look up at the screen up here, you can see this is the satellite image from 2010, and here's 2024. It's literally the same. However, due to the fact that the fence is technically within the front yard and is over 4 feet in height, a variance is required. Jennifer's a first-time home buyer and wasn't aware that a permit was required to replace an existing fence, so she's going through this process after being notified by the township. Obviously, a fence is critical in this area because she has a swimming pool, and it would be a safety hazard not to have a fence there. She replaced the old fence, again, exactly as it was, both in height and location. So at this time, we're seeking a single variance to allow a front yard fence to be more than 4 feet in height. Also, as you can see in these photographs, it's the same size, and you can also see the prior condition. I submit to the board. The new fence is a whole lot nicer looking than the old fence is. The directly adjoining property owner at 49 Openwood contacted our office to advise that they're in support of this application. There are no site issues with the fence, and as you can tell by the bend of the road, if I can pull it up there, and lack of any issues going back decades before when the old fence existed, there's no issue. And to state it another way, there's no detrimental impact here in allowing Jennifer to replace what was there previously. So at this point, if I could have Jennifer sworn in, I can ask her just a few questions, please. Is that okay?
I'm going to have you raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Go ahead, step to the microphone, I'll scream. So I'm going to introduce you to the board. You are the owner of 45 Openwood Lane,
Yes.
and you've been the property owner there for approximately 5 years.
Yes.
And you listened to my statements to the boards just now, correct?
Yes.
Did you understand everything that I said?
Yes.
And is everything that I said true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Is there anything that you'd like to add to what I just said?
No.
And are you willing to adopt my statements this evening just now as your own testimony?
Yes.
And just to confirm, you simply replaced the old fence with a new fence and made no other changes?
No.
And you weren't aware that you needed a permit at the time to replace what was already existing?
That is correct.
And you know that now?
Yes.
And you also know that in the future, if there's any question as to whether or not a permit's required, that you can reach out to the township to find out whether or not it is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. With that, that'll conclude our presentation. If the board has any questions?
That sounds eerily similar to what I usually say, doesn't it? Yeah. Covers you pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay. So, that being said, we won't go into the permit thing. Anybody have any questions? Comments, concerns?
The board or us?
Board.
Yeah, I got questions. I get that you're replacing the fence that was there.
Yes.
Your attorney said that it's not in the site problem. It's a huge site problem. It must have been a problem before. But backing out of your driveway, which I did, you can't see the sidewalk until you're past the sidewalk, like already over it. You cannot see the traffic coming around the corner because you're on a bend until you're almost in the street. So it's a major site problem. I get it. You took an old fence down. I probably would have thought the same way. You don't need a permit, take down, put back up. I get all that. The end of your fence is probably 8 or 9 feet tall, which is way over what normal is. I don't know how tall it is, but it's pretty tall because you have it up in the air, so you have stuff underneath it. So that's pretty tall too. I get it. You want privacy in your pool. I get all that, okay? I just have a huge problem with division, backing out of your driveway. When you back out of your driveway like I did, you can't see the sidewalk until you're on it. So what if somebody's riding a bicycle or whatever? I know it's been that way forever, probably never had a problem, but that's why we do inspections and check things. Vision of the road, you know, you're right on a bend. You can't see until you're in the road. you know, up the street. That's the comments I basically have on this.
Anybody else?
I have one. Bob, the fence that they replaced, was there a permit issued for that?
There was, for a 6-foot fence on that bend. But the fence, it almost doubled in height, maybe 4 feet higher.
Thank you.
So herein lies the problem, okay? And I'm gonna get on my soapbox. Not getting permits originally is really the issue at hand here. Because if you would called the township and asked them if you need permits originally, we wouldn't be at this position we're at now, okay? So, you need permits. And if you would've got permits originally, the township would've told you that you cannot replace this fence with the fence you replaced here. They would've told you that you would've had to come in front of us for a variance before you put this fence up. So, that, for me, is a huge problem here, okay? I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but that's my personal feelings, and I just had to let everybody know that. So, get permits, please. Call. It's an easy phone call. You know what I mean? They probably won't even ask your address. They'll just ask, you say, do I need a permit for the fence? They'll probably say, yep, and then you know, all right? Everything. You need permits for everything. Fences, you know, the whole patio stuff, patio blocks, impervious surface, concrete, permits, please, everybody. All right,
One more question. Bob, did you say there was a permit pulled originally for that original fence?
Yes, prior.
How long ago, do you know?
I think it was early 2000s.
Okay. And was it the same height fence?
No, not to what is existing today.
Did I see it ramping down on that one corner up there? A little bit. All right.
May I reply to some of the comments? Would that be okay?
absolutely.
I'm going to ask my client a couple questions. With regards to the area where there is a little bit more than the 6 foot, can you explain why that is?
So my property sits like on a hill. So even when I'm standing on my property, I could pretty much see right over the fence.
Okay.
However the pool is built, it has to be at least 3 or 4 feet above the ground. So I'm not street level at all. So if I'm standing on my driveway, I can still see my neighbors clear as day across the street.
Okay. And when you received the notification from the township that you should have received a permit, can you tell them approximately, and I'm sure Mr. McTeague actually has the actual date, when that was?
I received the notice, and I believe if I was either the next day or a few days after, I immediately came right in. They told me what I needed to do. I had to get something from the water. That took a little bit of a while. I called them up and said, this is gonna take, some time. I did exactly everything they did. I came, I paid for the permit, and that's when I got the notice.
And you understand Mr. McMahon's warning that these kinds of things could have been rectified via permit. Is it fair to say, though, you thought you were actually improving property that you owned in
I was
Bristol?
under the impression if I was replacing exactly what was there, I wasn't changing anything that I didn't need. If I was gonna add a new fence, I would say, safe to say, that's obvious, but it was exactly what was there. And the fence had been knocked down on several occasions by my neighbor's limb, so it kept getting replaced,
And so rather than replace pieces and boards, you replaced the entire thing.
Well, I did originally replace pieces and boards the first time my neighbor's tree fell on it. Then, second time it fell on it, the township actually came out and put a notice on my door and said, you have a pool, you have to put your fence back up. So I even called, I'm like, what do I do? He's like, you gotta put something up. I don't care if it's temporary, I don't care if it looks pretty. So with that, I'm like, I gotta do something quick, because this has to be up.
And ignorance of the law, every lawyer knows, is no defense, and can fully appreciate that. I just submit to the board that I have seen in my time before you, many times people say, I didn't know I was supposed to get a permit. In this matter, it was a replace, quite frankly, to something really pretty over something that didn't look so great. I respect and understand the concerns that you just brought up, Mr. Lycon. I think that Ms. Acosta, I should say Officer Acosta, she's a police officer, had she had known there was an issue, would have brought it to the board's attention. Or
Did
the
you have a
township's.
contractor put this up?
It was a company called R&R Fence.
Okay. All right. Although you're ultimately responsible for the permits, they should have made you aware of it too, could they?
I did ask him,
Okay.
and he said, you're just replacing, you shouldn't need. I said, okay. Because he said I wasn't putting up anything new. He said, you're just replacing. I said, okay.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this application? Okay, Bob, anything else to add? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Any motion to accept or deny this application?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
I need a second. I'll make a second on that motion. Call the board.
Gerard Lycon.
I'm gonna have to say no because of the vision of the road.
Can we maybe, is there a possibility that they back in the driveway that could, save, with vision? If you're backed into that driveway, you'll see clearer coming out.
Yes.
That's the thought.
I think she was back there when I pulled in.
I know, I understand. You said you were backing out, which I understand
Yeah.
completely, I get that. But if you're pulling forward, you got a better chance of not, you got a better chance to see it.
May I have a brief moment with my client, please?
Sure.
In conferring with my client, may I just ask her, you heard what Mr. Murphy just said with regards to backing in, so that
Yes.
you have a better view when you're pulling out. Are you able to commit to the board that going forward, you will not be pulling into your driveway, that
Yes.
you can back
I
out?
can back into my driveway every day and pull forward.
And you committed to that moving forward? It will
Yes.
not happen that you back in,
No,
or that
I
you
will-
pull in?
Yes, I will back in and only pull out forward from my driveway. And if I have company, I will let them know.
Thank you.
Okay. Keep going. Keep
Colleen
going.
Dunn.
Because of the pool, yes.
Ed Murphy, yes.
Yes.
Yes, you're good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, number 2. Joshua Lepore, P.O. Box 1334, Ben Salem. Please come on up. Whenever you're ready, Council.
All right, thank you. Right, Lepore modified plan, Mr. McTague. Yep. All right, good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin, here on behalf of the applicant Josh Lepore, who is the owner of the subject property located at 1557 Newport Road. I'm going to be briefer than normal with respect to the background because Mr. Lepore was in front of this board a couple months ago. You may recall, Mr. Lepore appeared, he was here because his property, which is located in the R1 district, is approximately 15,000 square feet, was over with respect to impervious surface coverage. It was in fact, a pre-existing condition. We were over by about 8% before site work, which the board addressed, was added by Mr. Lepore. Predominantly here, you can't see it on the plan provided by Vince Fioravani because it shows the remedial measures that were proposed at that time. This is the driveway extension, which really substantially created the pre-existing non-conforming condition. And then there was the addition of this walkway area around the property in addition to the large driveway extension. Mr. Lepore's neighbor, Ms. Carnevale, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, appeared and testified as to the impact that the added impervious had on her property, and it was subsequently denied by a vote of 3-1 by the ZHB. I'm going to editorialize probably a bit more than I normally do at the outset, but we took the feedback from the board and from Ms. Carnevale to heart. Mr. Lepore had subsequent conversations with Ms. Carnevale and modified the plan in a manner which we're going to discuss in a moment. The reality of the situation is we are proposing now, in addition to the continued remedial measures to the rear, and if you look at the site plan that we provided, this was all impervious. This all still is being returned to green space. We are still adding the stormwater improvement measures on the property boundary between the Lepore's property and the Carnevale property. We are still proposing the planting of the additional evergreen trees, but we are also removing this strip right here, which is another couple hundred square feet. So in essence, we're in a situation where, but for substantially the walkway that's added, we're returning the property to basically its condition that existed when Mr. Lepore purchased it, except for the fact that we are substantially improving the situation with respect to the stormwater management controls, which we're adding. So I think we're in a scenario where we're able, hopefully, to craft a win-win-win for all three parties. We understand the message that's delivered with respect to permits that was discussed last time. That's been received loud and clear. Mr. Lepore obviously has gone through the legal expense now of 2 presentations, the engineering expense, the additional expense of reducing basically 2,000 square feet of impervious surface coverage and the investment that he's making into the property, as well as, if you would recall, the investment that Mr. Lepore testified that he made when he purchased the property, which was he acquired the property. It was in a significant state of disrepair. He made several improvements, unfortunately some of which were not permitted, which was why we were here, to improve the property. And now he's, I think, going to take the next step to finalize the improvements to create a beneficial situation for everybody involved. The unfortunate reality is if we move forward and the project is denied, what is going to be removed is everything that we're already discussing. This, since it's a pre-existing condition, is going to remain, and then we are just going to be removing the walk, which I don't think benefits anybody, and it will not reduce the reality, and this is a fact, not conjecture, is that action will not reduce the stormwater runoff to the same degree as this proposal will. So what I would like to do, and again, that's the only variance that we're seeking, what I'd like to do is have Mr. Lepore again sworn in and then address the board specifically with respect to the comments that were made last time. I do not wish to speak for Ms. Carnevale, who I believe is here again this evening, but our hope is that we can create a collective solution that's mutually beneficial. So with that, I'd like to offer Mr. Lepore for a very brief testimony.
Sir, I'll have you raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And Josh, can you please state your name for the record?
Joshua Lepore?
All right, and Mr. Lepore, you are the record owner of the subject property before the board this evening, is that correct?
Yes.
And you heard the summary that I provided the board as part of your presentation, is that correct?
Correct.
And if you were called to testify, would you so adopt the summary that I provided the board as if it was in your own testimony?
Yes.
Okay, and with that, I'm just going to provide you the floor just to briefly address the board with respect to this property, your viewpoint and plan moving forward.
Okay, I bought the property about 2 years ago now. There was a lot of bamboo. I think it was abandoned for about 4 or 5 years. Me and my father own other properties. We'd like to go in, put a nice touch, fix everything up, make it beautiful, pretty,
nice looking, whatever you like to, call it. I did apply for some permits. I did not apply for the permit for the sidewalk or blacktop. Reason I put it in was to make it more convenient for my tenants to not be able to block the driveway, be able to get around and park in the back. I thought it was more practical, solution. In regard to that, I take a lot of pride in my work and the properties that I have purchased, not in Bristol, but in other areas too. Talked to Mrs. Carnavale a couple times, try to make nice with her, see what her regards is to make her happy. Pretty sure that we have a same mindset that I was gonna help her out with a few things at her house and make her house look nicer and improve her property.
Let me interject really briefly here, Mr. Lepore. So you testified at the end of the last hearing that you own the property, but you do not reside in the property. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Does that have any impact on your desire to improve the property so that it is a improvement upon when you acquired it?
Yeah, I would like to improve it, yes.
All right. And yes, you own multiple properties, but in the event that you come before the board, you want to do the right thing so that you have basically a reputation of beautifying properties and doing well by the properties and by the township and by the community if you come in front of the board for future relief. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's why you're going through the steps that you're going through to make sure that you kind of rectify some of the missteps here, correct?
Yes.
And one of the things that was addressed at the last hearing and in the last presentation, and Mr. McMahon is always abundantly clear about, is this is the sort of work, I know you said you acquired some permitting, but the rest of the properties that you either own or that you may acquire in the future in Bristol, you're going to go through the process, contact Building and Planning, Mr. McTague's office. You will not be back in front of this board seeking ratification for work that was done without permits. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. I don't have anything else for Ms. Lepore at this time.
Okay, any questions from the board?
So if he removes the 200 square feet, what's the percentage he's over?
Yes, around 56 and a half would be remaining at the site.
Okay, thank you.
Can you elaborate more on the trench drain? Like, was that engineered and how much?
Yeah, so Mr. Fioravani, who testified at the last hearing, proposed a trench drain to be installed around the boundary of the property of Mr. Carnavale's. He testified at the last hearing that that would sufficiently mitigate the stormwater runoff so that we would be at the 30% impervious surface threshold that would be permitted. And that was before we were reducing additional impervious surface. So the reality of the situation with no stormwater controls in the property in its present condition, well, condition before the installation, was that there was a 38% impervious surface with no stormwater runoff. Based upon the last plan, we would be reducing it to have a functional effect of 30% with the additional 200 square feet plus of impervious surface removed. We will actually be below the cap of what would otherwise be permitted. And of course, as a condition of any zoning approval, we've discussed, and Mr. Lepore is aware, that he would then subsequently have to submit an earth disturbance permit or grading permit to the township, which would be reviewed by Gilmore and Associates to make sure that this was being managed appropriately as part of the next step of finalizing, hopefully, the action on this property.
All right. Eileen?
How many parking spaces was the existing driveway?
I believe 4, just in the front.
So how many tenants do you have in the property? Is it a one unit, like a
I
one
have 2.
rental or two?
Yeah, it's one house.
So just one family living there or
Correct.
multiple? One? So with the new driveway, how many parking spaces would exist then?
It's not so much parking space, it's that you're able to go around the side of the house.
If you look at, and I think it was in the packet, there are a couple properties on this strip that have this little bump out to the rear for maneuverability. That gets eliminated with this, but you still have the, the ability to park, I think, at least 3 or 4 cars on the property.
But the request is to expand the driveway, that's what I was asking.
No, I mean, that was, it's a ratification of what was done, so it was just the labeling of the citation that the township issued. We're not adding anything, we're removing from the existing conditions, so that was just the way it was labeled because of the NOV that was sent by the township. Thank you.
Colleen, this property has no street parking. They have to park on their property, can't park out in the street. So,
See that, I
Yeah.
just was asking about the
Okay.
thing and the current.
yeah, okay.
Anything else, Gerard?
No, I'm okay.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
There are multiple doors around the whole entire house. To access them doors, you need some kind of sidewalk or,
You had discussed how there was an ADA component to it because of the access points, which is why you put in the walkway, correct?
Okay, anybody else from the board? Bob? Okay. Now, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this project?
I have a question.
Come on up, you gotta get sworn in, ma'am.
First, state your name for me.
Elaine Engelman.
Do you swear that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I'm just wondering if the property had ever been surveyed before he came in to do all this work.
no, it has not.
I just had a question.
And you're gonna supply engineered plans as part of the subsequent action if it's approved?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. That answer your question, ma'am? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? For or against?
I'll put a motion for it.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Call the board.
Jim McMahon,
No.
Colleen Dunn,
Yes.
Gerard Lycon,
Yes.
Ed Murphy, yes. Good luck, buddy.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 3 on the agenda. Innovators Building Group, 412 River Road, Unit A, Croydon. Please come on up. Okay. Whenever you're ready, Counselor. Yeah, take your time.
PowerPoint, thank you. Thank you. Good evening again, Chelsea Jackman on behalf of the applicant Felipe Morales, who is the owner of Innovators Building Group. The subject property is located on Newportville Road, and the tax parcel number is 05015-058, and it's located in the R1 district. The property is 6,750 square feet, and Mr. Morales is hoping to construct a single-family detached dwelling along with a retaining wall and a driveway. And this is the area right here. This is a Google Earth image. By way of that background, a variance was granted for this property in 1979 to erect a single-family detached dwelling, and for unknown reasons, that never occurred. The Innovators Property Group purchased this property last year, 2023, and it's Mr. Morales' vision to build a modern-style home with hopes of selling to a young family who wants to set up in Bristol Township. This is not a rendering, but this was the inspiration for what he is looking to do in that particular area. And to do that, variances are necessary, quite a few actually. And so, without further ado, those variances are impervious calculations to be based on the base site area instead of the net buildable area. And it should be noted for that one that we are also proposing a stormwater dry well to mitigate any possible runoff, restoring it to pre-construction conditions. The applicant also seeks to have measurements involving the street line be based on the legal right-of-way, as well as a series of setback variances, including 3 feet to the retaining wall, 22.4 feet to the front steps, and 7 feet from the side yard to the retaining wall. Furthermore, with regards to steep slope disturbance, the applicant requests 2 variants of 100% disturbance where 25 and 15% is allowed. So the lot is undersized very clearly, but this is the only practical way to have a home built on this particular piece of property, which I submit to the board was envisioned when it received that variance in 1979. If you take a look here, this right here is our property that we're talking about at about 6,500 square feet. And if you look at the neighboring properties, they are all undersized. And if you take a look just visually at the houses on them, I would suggest that that given the various unique characteristics of these properties, these are the types of variances that are required to reasonably use the home, use the property and build a home. So that is just a very general summation of what we're seeking here. It is highly technical, so thankfully Mr. Richardson is present to go through that with a little bit more detail. Mr. Richardson has been recognized as an expert in civil engineering. I defer to the board. I'm happy to go through his various qualifications to have him qualified as an expert, but I would seek to do that at that time, and I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear his
Sure.
qualifications, please.
If I could have him sworn, please.
Do you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Richardson, we're going to go through your qualifications with regards to your expertise in civil engineering. First of all, do you have a license in civil engineering?
I do. I have a license in the state of Pennsylvania since 2004.
Have you been recognized as an expert before this board and other municipalities in Bucks County?
I have.
In nearly all of them?
All of them I've ever tried.
Okay. With regards to your training and experience, can you tell the board a little bit about your education?
Sure. I have a civil engineering degree from Bucknell University and a master's degree in civil engineering from Villanova. I've been practicing in the state of Pennsylvania, mostly Bucks County, since May of 2002. Anywhere from Lake Noxamixon South, a little Montgomery County, but primarily in central and southern Bucks County. Land developments, plot plans for residential and commercial sites, subdivisions, some industrial sites, water sewer designs, stormwater designs, that kind of nature.
And since you graduated with your master's degree, have you been gainfully employed as a civil engineer doing this kind of work since your graduation?
I have.
And with regards to the times that you have been offered as an expert, have you ever been denied qualification as an expert?
I've never been denied.
And with regards to the many times that you have offered your opinion, have all of them been to a reasonable degree of professional certainty in the field of civil engineering?
I believe so.
And with regards to the steps that you take before you opine as to a position such as this one, tell the board a little bit about what that looks like, going out to the home, setting up a plan, things of that nature.
So our firm does the entire site design from beginning to end. We have an in-house surveyor. Our surveyor would go out, survey the lot. Afterwards, we generate an existing features plan, at which point I would usually go to do a site visit, kind of get an idea of what's going on, anything that's not obviously shown in the existing features. At that point, we talk to the client, we design a plan that it tries to incorporate their vision for what the light want on their site. And most of the time, we come up with a sketch plan, the client reviews it. We sometimes then will run it by the township and see what the township thinks before moving forward.
Do you have oversight of other engineers, meaning do you work in tandem, review their work, have your work reviewed as you prepare site plans and things of that nature?
I do. I am the Director of Land Development at Dumac Engineering. So all the land development that occurs is under my purview.
Is it fair to say you have a supervisory role of other civil engineers, in particular in Bucks County?
Correct.
Would that suffice to the board as with regards to his qualifications?
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you. I tender, I almost said officer, I tender John Richardson as an expert in civil engineering. Don't go away, I have some questions for you. Let me grab mine, actually, excuse me. All right, so I just detailed in lay terms a little bit about what Mr. Morales is seeking with regards to variances, and let's go through them one by one, if you wouldn't mind. And I believe you had your own presentation that you wish to have placed up there, if Mr. McTagg could assist. While he's doing that, I'll ask you some foundational questions. Did you in fact visit this site in this matter?
I have.
And did you prepare a site plan?
We did.
And can you tell the board a little bit about the existing conditions as it relates to this property?
Sure. The site is fairly steep and it's fairly small. To put it in perspective, it drops off approximately 24 feet from the rear of the site to the road. So it's a 24-foot rise from the front to the rear. All the properties surrounding it, especially if you're facing the property from the road to the right, are equivalent in size and nature. As you move to the left, they tend to get a little larger. But overall, I'll call it an overgrown site. It's not woodlands, but it is definitely overgrown with high brush. There are two things currently on the lot of any significance. There's a shed that's an encroachment from the neighboring property. That shed sits.
If I could have just one brief moment, I don't believe that that's your presentation, is it?
No, that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought that I was about to say.
That shed sits about right here. And then there is also a storage container that was here, but I believe it's now been removed. The intent is to build what is currently shown on this plan. The access would be off of Newportville Road. It would come up, we would be designing and building a stormwater dry well. That is a stone pit that's underground that would manage the increase in stormwater. I would also submit that it actually would be more than handle the increase, because the site currently has some impervious surface here and the encroachment. So we would be returning the site to meadow, so it would actually be a decrease of the current runoff on the site.
Mr. Richardson, before you continue, if I could just jump in, if I could please approach the board, we have copies of the presentation, so you can flip them in front of you if that's okay. Sorry for the interruption. Continue, please.
So the driveway would come up, the house would be located here. Due to the steepness of the lot, we're proposing a retaining wall along the side property line to allow the driveway to be built and not be too steep. A lot of the houses on either side of this, the driveways are very steep, steeper than PennDOT would allow us to construct a driveway under current regulations. So the driveway is to allow the grading change to put the driveway in at a reasonable slope for safety purposes. The house would be, I wouldn't call it a shore house, but the intent would be that the front of the house would essentially be 2 stories tall, but in the rear it would only be 1 story tall exposed. That way the house itself kind of sits in the slope, and we don't create excess cuts or fills trying to grade around the house for a level perimeter. Due to the drop off of the site, there's proposed steps in the front of the house, which generates one of the variances, and that is because the envelope that the house is allowed to sit in is essentially the size of the house. It's not a large house, it's in nature with the other houses in the neighborhood, but it does occupy nearly 100% of the envelope that would be allowed, so therefore the steps would be outside of the envelope, generating one of the variances that we're requesting. The stormwater dry well would be underground, and once again, it would mitigate the impervious that would be built. In addition, it would also mitigate the change of the lot from, I'll call it overgrown brush, but might be considered as woods to lawn that would be proposed.
Can you talk a little bit about the request to have the street line variance? And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. The street line be based on the legal right-of-way.
Sure. So, if do you have the mouse?
I'm sorry. There you go. Sorry about that.
Just tell me what one you want, John.
I think it's sheet 7. I have it. It's not loading. It's in your packet. We have a aerial sheet that shows the site with an aerial photography behind it, which might be the reason it's not loading properly. On that aerial, we show where the ultimate right-of-way would be. And if you can see, it runs almost right along the front of most of the houses to the right, which are equivalent nature to this one. I will point out that our house actually sits behind most of those, so we actually do have a larger setback off of that. But if that right-of-way were utilized for the measurements and dimensions, it essentially results in a building envelope of 0. It just so happens that once you give up that right-of-way or measure from that right-of-way and the 35-foot front yard setback, it results in a literal 0 building envelope.
So
Additionally, if you were to measure the lot area from that right-of-way, it would reduce the lot area from the 6,750 square feet, it would reduce it down to 4,500 square feet. And once again, the allowable building envelope would be 0.
So with regards to the various variances, given the size of the lot and the unique characteristics of the physical property, can you envision a home with more, I'll say, compliant specifications than what it is that you're purporting today?
No, in fact, just about anything you build there that would be of reasonable use would not be, could not be occur without the requested variances. I would also point out the last 2 variances in regards to the steep slopes. While it is a little unusual to be asking for 100% disturbance, that is a function of the severity of the slope of the lots and the size. We would, in order to build the house and the stormwater dry well on the driveway, essentially 100% of the lot area would need to be disturbed.
And would you submit to the board that the kind of unique characteristic of having the backyard be 1 level and the front yard be 2 be in kind of because of those steep slopes that you had to do something like that?
Correct. That was a rather unique aspect of the design.
Is there any reason why the request for these various variances would be detrimental to the neighbors of the property, the neighborhood in general, or the township?
I don't believe so. In fact, in regard to the front yard setback and side yard setback of the retaining wall, also in your packet on that aerial is a property at the corner of Newportville and Nicolai Street. And you can see a very large retaining wall that is almost right on the street and right on the corner. Ours would taper down to 0 feet behind the right-of-way line. So ours is significantly further back, and as it comes towards the front of the property, it tapers off to 0 retaining wall height. Where the one on the corner in your board packet, you can see is very substantial, and it's very close to both roads. So I would submit that the design that we've come up with is fitting in it fits with the neighborhood, and it's less severe than some of the surrounding properties.
So I think we've gone through all of the variances and the reasons and nature of those requests. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you might think is important for the board to know as it relates to the engineering and design?
The only other thing would be the very first variance that I can think of in regard to net buildable lot area. Those terms, lot area, base site, net buildable, just to specify what exactly that is. In order to get the net buildable site area, you take the gross lot area, you subtract out the right-of-way area, and then you subtract out the lands that you cannot disturb due to natural resource protections. If we do that on the site, due to the fact that the site is 75% protected natural resources, it allows us to develop, in theory, 2,800 square feet of the lot. It just results in nothing. So if we base any of our calculations on the net buildable site area, the impervious surface and everything goes way over the allowable, even almost no matter how small the impervious surface created would be.
So you're asking the board to basically look at it from a different lens?
Correct.
Okay. Are all of the opinions that you've given tonight to a reasonable degree of professional certainty in the field of civil engineering?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think the board should know?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. If I could I call Mr. Morales? Go ahead. He's just gonna swear you in.
Go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, Mr. Morales, you can talk right into the microphone here. You're the owner of the Innovators Building Group
That's correct.
and the owner of this property, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you bought the property last year with the intention of building the home that I had showed to the board earlier, something like that?
Yes.
And do you employ any Bristol Township employees at Innovators Building Group?
Yes, I do.
And would it be your intention to use those employees to build this home on that property were the board to approve you tonight?
That's correct.
Okay. You've heard my and Mr. Richardson's statements to the board this evening?
Yes.
And do you have any questions about them?
I do not.
Do you understand everything that we just said?
I understand.
And do you have anything that you'd like to add to the board tonight?
I just want to say that I see a lot of potential in Bristol Township, and I would love to continue to invest in the Bristol Township from single-family homes to hopefully one day multi-family units.
Okay. And are you willing to adopt my statements this evening to the board as if they were your testimony this evening?
Yes.
That's all I have. That'll conclude our presentation. If you have any questions.
So Innovators Building Group already bought this property. This is not,
Correct. Yes, they purchased it.
okay, it's not, so these variances aren't gonna determine whether this property's purchased or not. It's all-
No, that's, yes, he already purchased it as Innovators Building Group, and no, the variances will not determine whether or not he owns it. Correct, Mr. Morales?
So, Mr. Morales, when you bought this property, were you remotely aware of that there's, could be problems building on it, or?
I was under the impression that there was plans already approved for it.
Okay.
So that's why I bought it, and once I went to go ask for permits, we got denied for that reason, so.
Okay, great answer.
I was gonna say, Mr. Morales, let's just highlight that again. You went and asked for permits before you did anything,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay, just
yes.
wanna make sure the board got that down.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I have one question. So why isn't there a picture of what you're gonna do, like an idea of what you're gonna build? You know, you gave us like a picture or rendering of something that might look like. Is there a reason?
So there is drawings, I just never got the chance to get like a 3D image or, like a 2D image in color. But I do have prints for it and everything.
Thank you.
Gerard?
I'm okay.
Colleen? Anything to add? Okay. Now, anybody from the audience, like to come up? Come on up, sir.
We're gonna stand over here. Come over here.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. Stand by.
State your name for me first.
Nicholas Medea, M-E-D-E-J-A.
Swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
My questions are just considerations. I am the property at 5-6, which is above him.
Okay.
I know there was mention of lots going this way, but I would be his back.
If I may, sir, does this help you at all? Does the presentation help you at all to see? Are you on there?
Doesn't show me. I am on top of this property. So,
Does that help at all?
yes. So I'm the property not in a blue line.
You gotta talk into the microphone for us too, please.
What can I do with this?
If you want to push the center button, and then you just need to talk right
This is me.
You need to talk into the microphone, sir. Please.
now. If that's easier for you.
Okay. This is me right here. I am lot 56. So my lot, he's 58. My lot goes back this far. So whatever he's doing here, this wall drops off. And I'm not too familiar with what retention would be in place, what that has to do with my property. I'm at the top of the hill, so everything's flowing down.
Right.
So my concerns, one of the concerns is erosion. Do I even have to worry about my property going, because that's a drop off.
So your property drops off into his property?
Yes.
So
Well-
you're not worried about any kind of water flow or anything like that?
Just as long as the property owners know that water flows downhill,
Yeah.
and I'm at the top of the hill.
I got you. You're worried about his property getting from your property?
Right, which would, I don't know if there's
You're
any,
asking if that retaining wall will stop?
will alleviate me from any legal responsibilities or
Fair enough.
anything like that.
Okay.
That's
I'm not a
one,
lawyer, so I have no answer.
well, I didn't know if that was to be brought up to the township, or if that happens after the fact.
That will be reviewed by the township engineer, and he will have to do on-lot stormwater retention.
Okay. The other consideration is the neighbors here, here, and here. There is an easeway that comes off of Nickel Avenue. The only way these residences can access their property is through this easeway. The property stops here, the easeway stops here, so everybody's concerned about construction vehicles, how they get into the lot. And which is, my property only has a 2-foot easeway on the back of the house.
So they're in the way, there's no way of getting in and out of there.
Well, these people's concerns.
Right.
Mine is, I only have 2 feet of my house before the easeway. But will construction vehicles be parking in the easeway? That's the neighbors' concerns. How else are they gonna get to the property?
Sir, part of the construction, I'll have to, add a construction entrance, and I'll have to get an HOP permit through PennDOT, because Newportville Road is owned by PennDOT.
Will they get a permit that allows them to use the easeway?
That I cannot speak of, but I believe the construction distance would be on Newportville Road.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, fair enough.
Good questions.
Very good question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience?
May, before the board votes, may I just respond briefly?
Absolutely.
I just spoke with Mr. Morales while, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't get your name, Medea? Nick, while Nick was up here, and I said, would you be willing to have a conversation with him afterwards to talk about what your plan would be and what it would look like, and to just ultimately be a good neighbor throughout the whole process? And he said, absolutely. So if Nick might be the representative of all the neighbors on that street, maybe we could set something up so you can all have a conversation to do this as amicably as possible.
That's always a good idea, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, pleasure of the board.
I'll put a motion for it.
Need a second.
I'll second.
Call the board.
Colleen Dunn,
No.
Jim McMahon,
Yes.
Gerard Lycon,
Yes.
Ed Murphy, yes. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, let's see here. Last on, for tonight's agenda is number 4. United American Muslim Association, 5201 Bristol Emily Road, Levittown. Please come on up.
Let me just get my things.
Okay, whenever you're ready, counsel.
Just one brief moment. Okay, got it, all right. I think I may have pushed, here we go, okay. Good evening again, my name's Chelsea Jackman, I'm an attorney with Begley Carlin Mandio, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, United American Muslim Association, for the Isabet Academy. And I will address off the bat, the room is quite full this evening. This is a very important evening, and there's a whole lot of hope in the room tonight for this presentation. The Isabet Academy offers an accredited middle and high school education through schooling alongside a core education in Arabic and Islamic studies. I want to address that Haji Kaya is a board member of both the Isabet Academy as well as the United American Muslim Association, and he's representing all of the individuals behind him. The Isabet Academy in Bristol consists of 2 parcels, and that's 05-032-072 and 05-032-072-001. And here's about one, and here's right about where the other is. For purposes of this presentation, when discussing the parcels, I'm going to refer to them as the field property, there you go, which is this area right here, I'm sure you're all familiar with, and then the building property, which contains the various buildings for the Isabet Academy. The street address is 5201 Bristol Emily Road in Levittown. The field parcel is 3.73 acres, and this is zoned commercial. And the building parcel is 3.35 acres, and that's zoned R3 and presently improved with 3 buildings on it. Of the 3 buildings, one is being used as a mosque and classroom, and the other 2 are used as dormitories separated by middle school and high school students. Aggregated, the 2 parcels are a little over 7 acres. So the school has been in operation since 2017 when they purchased it. And the applicant seeks to continue operating their school, which provides boarding to students in dormitories. As a condition of a special exception, the applicant seeks to consolidate the 2 parcels into one, aggregating to, like I said, a little over 7 acres. And also to have the field parcel be rezoned as R3 to match the building parcel. And that would be subsequent to zoning approval, obviously, by the Bristol Township Council. The reason we're doing this is because it's always messy when you have a use over 2 lots, which has conflicting zoning. But it also confirms that this really should be either scholastic or residential in nature. And by changing the zoning, hopefully, it means that many years from now in the future, if this ever sells, no one can throw up something commercial on that particular parcel. So one note as I go through here. We have the benefit of representing an applicant who has illustrated over the past 7 years its commitment to this community and has illustrated they will manage their school and their property appropriately, and that they've been very good neighbors. They've invited the community to partake in festivals, offering education, and encouraging their students to partake in community service, inviting community members to those kinds of things. You can see in the school's vision statement, and I know it's really small, but ultimately, the themes of instilling morality and kindness and respect are enduring in everything that they teach at their school. So from a big picture standpoint, fixing the zoning, consolidating the 2 lots, and just affirming that an upstanding member of the community can continue to operate at the property as they have done for the better part of the last decade. So that's generally speaking what we're looking to do here, but I think it would be important for you to hear from Haji, if I could please have him sworn.
Can I have you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Hello? Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Haji, can you tell the board, what is your role as it relates to the Isabet Academy?
I'm board member of the academy, and also I'm board member of the United American Muslim Association.
Okay. And when did you purchase the property here at 5201 Bristol Emily Road?
End of 2016, I believe was October 2016.
Okay. And do you own and operate, or should I say that, does the Isabet Academy own and operate other properties within Bristol Township?
Well, we have a pleasure to be in Bristol Township last 20 years, property in Bristol.
Okay, and that particular property houses females, correct?
That's right.
And the property we're talking about here tonight are the males, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your understanding of the historical use at this property? Tell me what you understood it to be before you purchased it.
When we found this property, we were looking for this kind of property for a long time. The similarities were a lot. One thing, we're religious and educational organization, and the seller was also a religious, which is a church, Catholic church. Had a church in the front, school, which is the big building, in the back, and also two buildings were used.
Middle button will give you to a point, so you can use that up there.
So as we found this property, this portion was church, and this portion was the school, still same, and there's no change on that part, place of worship, school, and this part, we called it Building B now. It was a convent, and the setup was, as far as I remember, almost 30 rooms and individual, I believe nuns were living. There was no 30 nuns, but like maybe 6, 7, as far as I remember, but it's 30 separate rooms, like similar dorm setup was there.
Can I just unpack that for 1 second? You said you believed there to be about 30 nuns living there because of the setup that you could see. You didn't see the nuns living there.
That number is more than 30 that I remember, but the room we counted, and it stayed in my mind that 30 rooms with like sinks and everything inside. But number of nuns that time was not more than 10. I believe 6, 7 that I remember.
Okay, and part of the selling point for this property was that there was that boarding component in a religious setting. Is that fair to say?
But there, yes, in that case, many similarities. The setup, the use, place of worship, school, which is education, and the residential part, it's almost what we're looking for. So that's
Okay.
what we had at that time, yes.
Okay, and with regards to the property right now, and feel free to use that as a visual, can you tell the board a little bit about what the property is currently comprised of?
This is, as you explained, the field part, the commercial zone property. And this part, 2-story, the top portion is a place of worship, which we pray. It used to be church. And the bottom part of this floor was cafeteria, still cafeteria, with renovated commercial kitchen with all the proper permits and everything. The school part is a 3-story, still it's school, but we have plans approved. We were only able to renovate first floor of the school, and we're using it with the CO and everything. And this part, it was convent. Now we're using as a dorm, which middle schoolers stay. And this was a rectory at that time, and we're having high schoolers and some offices in this building now.
Okay, and so Isabet Academy B, which is the middle school,
Yes.
that is that 84, 88 square feet? Did I get that right?
Yes,
And then the high school is 8,850 square feet. Is that also correct?
that's right.
Okay. Can you tell the board a little bit about what occurs at the Isabet Academy?
When we found this property, we were so delighted and happy. Main reason, our organization, in one part, religious organization, which provides religious services, meaning that all the daily services, weekly mass, many other religious component of it, which this property has a church, so mainly now it's a mosque. We're praying that part, which brings the community together. The back portion school, which is very important to the youth, not only for our community, it's for our country. I know it's all the countries, but for our country, education is the key component of the life from born to the death. That's the main part of our services, which has school. Plus, we have a residential part of it, which is at that time convent or rectory. We believe was a dorm. I think it was a perfect match for us, and that's the usage for now. And in same way we're using it. The people are coming pray, kids are coming to learn, and kids staying there to learn and socialize. In this environment, especially in this world, many parents are worried about their kids. Main reason for our community, a lack of language and a barrier to teach them proper education, plus supervising. Many parents working. So in this facility, we're providing all these most of the services that our community needs.
And in preparing for tonight's presentation, we talked a lot about what you meant when you talked about education, and this isn't just a school, this is an education about becoming, for these individuals, good, upstanding men, good people in the community, people who do community service, who reach out to their neighbors, and it's more of a whole person education as opposed to algebra and geometry and reading and writing, that kind of thing. Is that a fair assessment of it?
That's right. From morning to noon, those kids basically focus on their academic education, which is, for their life in the future, it's very key. Plus, we have needs as a person, and their social part, which is character education, which we try to give them afternoon, is another main part to raise those kids improperly. Many parents are happy about those. When you have a kids that study academic studies, and they have a character studies afternoon, they have respect for their parents. They're learning to respect their friends. They're socializing, and at the end, they have respect to their neighbors, people around them. So that's how they are being raised.
And some of the selling point of having middle schoolers and high schoolers together is they have a strict routine of academics for the most part in the morning, and then more of a religious-based education in the afternoon. But at all times, they are supervised, they're working together, and they are under a pretty strict regimen, would you say?
Yes. Plus, there is age difference between middle schooler and high schoolers. Not only academic education part, the hours also a little different. Like high school start half hour early, but when you're talking about 12-year-old, 15-year-old, they're kind of aged up, and we're trying to separate in while they're taking those lessons to make them to focus on what they're learning.
So you are taking into consideration their age, maturity, and ability to engage in the various types of lessons that you're providing them, correct?
Yeah, we're working hard on it, yes.
Okay. And with regards to boarding, you only have boarding students there, correct?
That's right.
And with that, you don't have buses coming in and out of your school on a daily basis, correct?
No.
And you provide, and I'm going to highlight right there, you provide all meals for all the children?
Yes.
And they
On
all
the
eat?
site,
And they
yes.
all eat together?
Yes, they eat. Basically, their home. That place is their home. They eat. They get education. They get character education. It's basically from morning to the bed. It's their home.
And the boarding component has always been a part of the Isabet Academy, correct?
That's right.
And you believed that part, that boarding was actually compliant because of your understanding of the historic usage when you purchased the property, correct?
That's right.
With regards to compliance within the township, you've never objected to the fire marshal or anybody who wanted to come in to ensure the safety and welfare of the children, correct?
That's right. I want to add a few sentences
Please.
on that. By policy, our association puts safety first all the time, especially when it comes to kids. But the manpower of our association sometimes has short knowledge of that, a misunderstanding of the codes. So when it comes to townships, whether building inspector, fire inspector, or zoning inspector, anybody comes who knows the zones. It's not just for fun. Those rules and regulations are made, to protect those people. So we as a group and our people, when the inspector approached, building inspector or fire marshal, Kevin, we love to see him all the time over there, and they always followed their direction.
Okay.
We had shortcomings, of course. Meantime, while they gave us list to this, not always on time, but at the end, the goal is to comply with the law.
And you and I talked a little bit about your various obstacles, we'll call them, or chances to comply. You do them not always as quickly because you have funding issues, candidly, with the board, correct?
For example, when you focus on something, you establish funding, you start a work to do, renovation, whatever, it's been permitted, you're doing it. Meantime, there are some other issues comes up, or towns tell you to do this, then, you have to work with the town, tell them, this is what we're doing. We have to, prepare for this in terms of funding and other stuff. Please give us, ample time to correct those issues. And Bristol Township has been always on our side to correct all the issues. So far, we have no issues on that
And
part.
they've been willing to work with you all this time, and you're going to be willing to continue to work with them should everything get approved today.
Yeah, I can give you a small example. I got a fence permit, and I didn't know I have to put fence from 8 feet from road. I started fencing, and luckily Bob came and says, you're doing wrong. Luckily, we didn't go far with the work, and we corrected right away. But as I said, the shortcomings, misunderstanding can happen. So the people over there, fire marshal, building, they're always,
They work
helping
with you.
in good ways, yes.
And we'll
But
stop
the
right
budget,
there.
Budget restriction is being there. This is a nonprofit. It's a religious. It's going to be a component of our work, but we saw understanding and mutual agreement on that part with the township.
And Haji, you just admitted to beginning to do something without getting permit approval first. We're going to stop right here and say that that's not going to be a thing anymore. Meaning, anytime you want to do anything, if the board approves tonight, you are going to go get a permit. Or ask if you need to get a permit, correct?
That's definitely the case, yes.
Okay.
That'll be the case.
Have you ever had any, we'll call it more serious issues, meaning have the police ever had issues with you, with students, since you've been there?
No.
Have you had
Small
any-
incidents, that's it. No big issues with the police and all this stuff.
Have you had any noise complaints that you're aware of, trash issues, things of that nature?
Not to the best of my knowledge, I didn't get those from the neighbors.
Okay, and would you agree, and I think we sort of covered this, but would you agree that not having students come back and forth to school really does alleviate some of what are other concerns and what other schools have as concerns? For instance, traffic, transportation, costs for food, things of that nature. Everything's on site in one, we'll call it, wrapped up in a bow, that students can go get this education and this way of life, essentially. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. I mean, this type of service versus the one you explained, parents are dropping off their kids, we're busing to the side. It's going to cost us money, cost us time. It's going to probably cost township money, plus the quality of education in some terms, and the expense will rise. So it's not, I should say, the right thing to do for us. This way, we're containing kids. We're basically focusing on their education in academic-wise till noon. It's more beneficial and efficient, I should say, this way, in many ways.
And each of the students are privately funded, meaning you are not seeking waivers, grants, anything of that nature. Each student who comes to the Isabet Academy is paying their own way in some way, shape, or form. Is that fair to say?
That's right.
And you often, and sometimes you have fundraisers to assist in the costs of attending the school, correct?
That's right, we do, yeah, many fundraisings for that purpose.
So getting back, the underlying property we discussed is actually 2 separate parcels, and you're willing to consolidate and make them, and request that they both be rezoned as R3, correct?
That's right.
And you're looking to expand the number of students allowed so that you can allow for 200 students to attend Isabet Academy, correct?
That's right.
And do you believe that the site, when consolidated and when the appropriate outfitting is done, that you'll be able to handle that? Meaning you'll be able to handle that many students at the school?
Yes.
Will you have adequate staff members to attend to the students?
Well, the staff members comes first. We have staff members first, then we're going to accept the students.
That's a good answer. What other facilities are on the site besides the dormitory? I think you said that there were classrooms. What else is there besides classrooms and the cafeteria, for instance?
Classrooms, gaming rooms, offices. For the kids, they have a field in the back. They're playing around. Between 2 buildings, building A and B, we just, we had old asphalt. We took out we put new concrete so kids can skate. Yeah, it's now it's different now. So in the future, hopefully, we have talks with the Bob. Hopefully, things approved by the town. We're going to have nicer fields for the kids, whether basketball court or soccer fields or bicycle pads. Might be the future project, but we have to come in compliance in the buildings first, and the outside of the building we seek permits.
Okay, and so from the outside looking in, you're really looking to do essentially the same thing that you have been doing since 2016, 2017, correct?
Yes, outside, no change.
Okay, and you want to continue to be good neighbors, involve your students in the community, partake in community service, and really just continue to call Bristol Township home for these students, correct?
It's been a home, yes. I've been living here for 2 years, but as I speak with my people, the students, they love the neighborhood.
Oh, and we'll get to the students in just a minute.
Yeah.
So with regards to moving forward, you're reaffirming your commitment to being a good neighbor, not just to the township, but to the members of the surrounding community and the people that you bring in from all over to, again, call Bristol Township their home, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you want this board to grant you the necessary variances that we discussed so you can continue to flourish here in Bristol Township, correct?
That's what we're humbly asking from the board to accept it.
Is there anything that you would like the board to know that I haven't asked you at this time?
Not much, but I'm sure everybody and the board understands nature of this, I'm not going to say business, service to the community. In this world, you have parents on one side, they're struggling for themselves and for their kids. On the other hand, kids also are struggling to be raised. They have many obstacles, to be good citizen of this country. So, as they provide, the parents provide, many things for their kids, which is, food, shelter, money for their education. They're not just the people are not just consist of meat and bones. They have feelings. So we're trying to fill their mind with good education and fill their heart with good education. So while they're raising themselves as a whatever the profession they choose to be in the future, and they'll be a good person, first themselves, then their family, their neighbors, their nation. So countless benefits to the community, in general. In specific, Turkish Americans, will have. That's lots of benefits to our community. That's all I can say at the end.
Okay, and there are a whole lot of individuals looking up at us now. Generally speaking, we have some graduates, we have members of the board, and we have just a whole lot of people with a lot of hope that this board allows you guys to continue to flourish and do the good work that you've been doing in this community, correct?
Yes.
And you have people who've traveled from, what's the farthest to be here?
How far?
New Yorkers?
New Yorkers? New York is one person that's from
Okay.
headquarters watching us.
And from headquarters, making sure you do a good job. Understood, okay.
Just one simple example, from my phone, I get text messages, from my health insurance. Do this, go check up this. And when I feed my kids correct in many ways, not only with food, then, they are not close to this country. You can multiply those examples, If a good person, then he's not going to be in the fight on the street. He's not going to be alcoholic. He's not going to be drug user. So it's not going to cost the police. It's not going to cost the country. It's not going to cost the. So we're reducing basically the burden of monetary things on the government and on the neighborhood, and just to be good. As long as I'm not required to take my kids to the doctor, I'm not going there because they don't get sick that fast. It's just they go regular checkups. Sometimes the seasonal things happen. They go, and as they grow up, I have seen, many examples in our community. If raised that way, there are people who did not take proper education complaining about their kids versus who took proper education, not only religious or character education I'm talking about, academically, they're happy in many ways.
You're very passionate about the school, and I think what I'm gathering is you're saying that if you put people on the street and narrow and you teach the kids young that this is the way that you should act early on in life, they'll continue throughout and they won't cause problems later in life or be a problem for society, for their family, friends. And the Isabet School, in your opinion, is a really good place for them to start on that path, correct?
Yes.
At this time, if it's okay, we have two graduates from the Isabet Academy who just want to take a moment of the board's time to explain what it has meant to them to go through the school system, where they are now, and how it's impacted them in their life, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I'd call Farouk Bayrak. Thank you. And I provided the spelling of your name to the stenographer here, so I think we should be good if you could just raise your hand.
Raise your right hand. Will you please swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be
Yes. Yes, I do.
Farouk, can you tell the board how old are you?
I'm 31 years old.
And where do you currently live?
I live in East Hampton, New Jersey.
And can you tell the board, are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
What do you do?
I'm an operations supervisor at a warehouse.
And did you attend the Isabet Academy?
I attended the facility in Beaver Dam Road between 2005 and 2011. I attended the after-school programs, weekend programs, like spring break, fall break, summer camps, and Isabet was a little bit before my time.
Okay, and with regards to where you grew up, can you tell the board a little bit about that? Like where you were, where you left to come to the Isabet School?
Oh, so we immigrated to the United States in 2000. My parents were very concerned about how I was going to be raised because they were strangers to the country. They didn't know who to go to. Luckily, we had found the United American Muslim Association in 2005 in Beaver Dam Road. They were very relieved. I was able to get more attention. I was able to be educated in my religion, in culture, how to become more successful in life, how to implement everything that I learned in my life. With the teachings that I received in the United American Muslim Association, I became the person that I am today. I am self-accountable. I am much more composed. I have a confidence in myself. I'm proud of the person that I have become. The teachings in these facilities include teachings such as they instill integrity to you. They give you a sense of self-accountability. They try to teach you what is right, what is wrong, so that you can make informed decisions. Due to it being a religious facility, The premise is mostly about contesting with others to do good deeds. The more good deeds you do in the afterlife, you will be rewarded more. So with the premise being this, we are encouraged to do more acts of good deeds, and it could be anything from helping your neighbor to doing charitable acts, to helping the community, to being nice to somebody, to be respectful to your parents, and these are things that I live by every day, and it makes me stand out. I have high regard in every occasion that I go to, even at work. People do notice the small differences that these teachings bring to the table.
And you attribute that to the development, the foundational education that you received at the Elizabeth School?
Yes, most definitely, because my parents did not have time or the education to provide me with this.
Thank you. Is there anything else you want the board to know?
Just something that I would like to add, if I don't take too much of your time, is that there are lots of families that are concerned about the future of the children, and facilities like these really help nurture the youth to bring them to become more successful individuals, whether it is in academics or just becoming a better person themselves. There's always a demand for facilities like these. I believe there's a huge demand that just in the surrounding areas with concerned parents that would like to enroll their children in these facilities so that they have a better future, that they are better people, they are more functional members of the community. And I believe that if this permit is granted, hopefully that will help the burden of those concerned parents so that we have a better future, a brighter future, and a better youth coming after us.
Thank you, Farooq. Appreciate it. You can have a seat. And then, I see the name. If I could please call Zabir Ahmed, please. Did I say it correctly? Thank you. Zabir, I'm going to ask you generally the same questions after you're sworn in. How old are you, Zabir?
I'm 23.
And are you currently employed?
Yes.
What do you do?
I'm one of the staff in Isabet Academy.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
Staff.
One of the staff
Isabet
members.
Academy.
And tell the board a little bit about what it is that you do as a staff member.
So I look after the student and help them teach with their Islamic classes after I graduated from Isabet Academy.
How long were you there?
Since I graduated?
No, how long were you at the Elizabeth Academy?
So I studied, myself, when they first newly bought the building, I came over here at 2017, graduated at 2020. After that, I went back to upstate New York, where I came from. For the past 1 year, I've been here as in one of the teacher, and I've been teaching here.
Can you tell the board a little bit about the direction that you try to, let's say, encourage the children as it relates to character development and growing up to be upstanding and good and positive members in the community?
So when the kids newly came to the Isabet Academy, they're not well behaved, and then after months later with all the staff over there, you can clearly see what we have done and then the work that we put in. When the parents come, or they are very surprised with what we're doing over here, and I'm pretty sure you guys are hearing about us as well.
And it was important for you to come here tonight to let the board know how important it is to you and to the people and to the children that you're working with that this academy can remain in operation and continue to flourish, correct?
Indeed.
And is there anything else that you'd like the board to know this evening?
I believe that the Isabet Academy, what they're doing, we're gonna have a better, brighter future that's gonna serve our community from Isabet Academy.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seat?
Good evening.
If I may, at this time, I have two letters. One from a local neighbor, the local adjoining neighbor at Clover IPM. If I could please approach the board with that, as well as a letter from State Representative Tina Davis with regards to both of their position as to tonight's applications.
Would you like me to read it for the record, or would you like to read it
I'm
for the record?
happy to do it if you want me.
Absolutely.
Ms. Jackman, can we just mark them, if you don't mark them as?
Absolutely. Is it okay if I mark them with a pen down here?
Yes, A1, A2 is fine.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Clover IPM as A1 and the letter from Wendy Davis as A2. Okay. This is dated July 7th, 2024. It's stated to Bristol Township Zoning Hearing Board regarding United American Muslim Association zoning application. Please be advised that we support UAMA, Isabet School Special Exception and Variance application for dorm use. We are in good relationship with them all these years and had no issues as a neighbor. We are happy to see the properties are in use as they were before UAMA purchased. We thank to the board for taking our views in consideration. Signed, Andre Duran, ANDRES DURAN, and I move for admission of A1. A2 is a letter, again, directed to James McMahon, Chair, Bristol Township Zoning Hearing Board, dated July 3rd, 2024. Dear Mr. McMahon, I'm writing to you in support of the United American Muslim Association and their application for a special exception and variance to allow for a residential dormitory at their Isabet Academy located at 5201 Bristol Emily Road in Levittown. The association has been a part of our Bristol Township community since 1991, and I've gotten to know them over the years. They are people of faith and family who have been operating a successful school for years, enriching the lives and minds of numerous students. Since purchasing the Immaculate Conception Church and school property and opening the new Isabet Academy location there, they have been good neighbors and an asset to our community. The Isabet Academy School has brought virtually no new traffic to the area and no other negative impacts to the surrounding neighborhoods that I am aware of. From what I understand, the administration of the school has agreed to all safety recommendations by the Building and Planning Department, as well as the Fire Marshal. I greatly appreciate your time and attention to the letter of support, and I thank you for your service to our community. I hope that you consider these thoughts, as well as the incredibly positive impact the United Muslim Association and the Isabet Academy have had here for several decades in your decision on their application. Thank you. Sincerely, Tina M. Davis, State Representative, 141st District. And I'd move for the admission of A2, please.
Okay. No, thank you. Yep. So my only problem is the variance is approved here is, and I don't know the legal aspect of it, like, should there be a condition laid upon this as far as if they decide to sell the property, which they're probably not going to, but if for some reason they do, whoever they sell it to, does it stay R3 or does it go back to what it was originally?
If the property is rezoned and that's granted by council, then it would stay. Someone changes it back.
Okay, all right, so there's no condition needed. That if anybody puts a condition on it, then council can put a condition on it.
They would have to go through the proper approvals to get it rezoned back to whatever they would like.
Okay, no, okay, I'm more worried about it.
If the property sells, it's not gonna revert back.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's gonna, okay, and that's the way we would like to keep it that way. Okay, all right. My other question was, if the variance is approved, is there plans for building on this property at all, or just gonna stay?
So currently, there is the ability to outfit the third floor to create more space for residents. We seek the variance tonight of the 200 students with the hope of when the time comes to build out the third floor, they will absolutely apply for permits, do it properly with building code and everything necessary. At this point, as is, we're requesting that variance. Candidly, the children are home for the summer. They did not have that many students this past school year. So it's really, the request is to request the variance up front so that they can flourish in the future without having to come back. But also making sure that we have the space for them on that third floor at the appropriate time, again, with permits.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, Colleen.
Sorry. So if granted, I'm just reading the zoning book here. So what is the current space for the dormitory use that is being used right now? Like
Currently, it's the two, let me just pull my notes here. It's the two buildings combined, which is Haji's whispering in my ear. Come on up, Haji.
Over 17,000 square feet.
You can say it. Go ahead.
It's two buildings being used as dorm now. That's a little over 17,000 square feet.
17,336, actually.
Okay. And then, do you have a capacity letter from the Water Wastewater Authority for the additional EDUs? And you were saying that you prepare food there, so do you have the adequate grease traps and inspections going on for that as well?
Regards to the cafeteria, she's asking.
Yes.
Do you have- Go ahead.
For the cafeteria, it's been permitted. The commercial kitchen will be renovated 2 years ago, and it's been inspected by health department.
Health Department, but how about your sewer authority and the township as well?
The township, the fire department comes every year, and sometimes they call to come to visit, but once in a year, they do regular inspections, which is the component of fire exits, of fire alarm system, and the tubes, fire.
Haji, I'm going to take some nonverbal cues from Mr. McTague here. If Mr. McTague would be able to opine on that.
Yeah, Colleen, I could speak on the commercial kitchen. That was inspected by the township. I can't say if it was by the,
It has not been.
okay.
That's why I was asking that. And then also, if consolidated, will you be coming forward for a parking variance as well? Because with 2,000 students in additional spaces being dorms or apartments, wouldn't they be required to have parking?
200 students, right?
It would be 200 students total, and they would all be boarding, so they would not be driving to and from school and would require parking. So from where I sit, and I don't want to speak for Haji if this is incorrect,
Yes.
the parking would need not change with an additional allowance of students.
May I add something to Mr. McMahon about the condition? For the other building, when we were approved, the board put a condition, when we sell the property, the use stays with the organization, doesn't sell to next, not the zoning, but the use may be a condition. That's probably a proper wording for the, for us to use, but not the next purchaser.
Thank you.
Colleen, do you know if there's a violation letter from this?
The authority is not aware that there's a functioning kitchen.
Okay.
So there will be a violation letter most likely going out.
And we'll be sure to address and handle and make sure that we ask all of the correct powers that be to continue operating.
Gerard?
Can I get a tour of the school?
Yes, anytime.
More
Okay.
emphatically.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Ed?
Yes. So this is to you, Bob. Was there a UNO given for the convent previously, before they bought the property?
So there was, from the township's knowledge, the archdiocese never shared the amount of nuns or priests that were staying in them buildings. It was inspected by the fire marshal, but there was never really a number on how many occupants were in there.
Okay.
At some time, the building was suited for 30 nuns, but from Kevin's prior inspection sheets, it was only about 5, and that was including priests in that building also. There's two separate. There was the rectory for the priest, and then the second building was to house the nuns. But the archdiocese never really shared when and how many nurses there, or not nurses, nuns were in that building.
Is there a requirement for that, the UNO for that building, or?
Yeah, that's what part of this approval would be for.
I have one more question. So how many students do you currently have in the dorms?
For the regular school years, we had 80.
Okay.
But the summer program is going on. On the high school part, we have, I think, either 14 or 15. Let's say 15.
The summertime is a lot less.
Yes. And the middle school part, 19. Was 19 or 20? Like 2 days ago, I checked. Let me, if I can ask my colleagues. I don't know the
Approximately 100 students are in the dorms?
For now, it's 50, total 50.
Where did the 80 come from?
Those are for summer program only, not the regular school year.
Regular school year had 80.
Regular school year?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just also comment with regards to Ms. Dunn's statement that, Haji, when, hopefully, more students are able to come to the school, you're gonna work with you'll work with the municipal authority on all of the things necessary to be in compliance with housing more students, correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay, just wanna make sure that we're clear on that.
Anybody?
I have one more question
Go
for
ahead.
Bob. Are there any current issues right now with Township, their facility?
This is part of coming into compliance. Technically, there was no approval for the dormitory in the beginning, so that's why they're here trying to get that. And then when we went and inspected the property, the density allows 40 students per acre, or with the acres on the property, and they were found to have 80, so it was doubled. That's why they're here in front of the board today, trying to get into compliance.
All right, thank you.
And if I also could just state that, and Haji, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're willing to do, I'll call it, damage to some of the work that's already been done to make sure that you're in compliance. If it means pulling down drywall so they can see that wires are in the right place, you're willing to do that to get into compliance. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
On
definitely.
board what Chelsea's referring to, there was prior disconnect with the prior director in L&I, and the permits were left open and never closed out, and there was misinformation back and forth, and they thought they were approved for it. There was no approval, so then that's why we're here today.
All right, I have a couple more questions. Will you be adding additional bathrooms, showers, laundry facilities, additional kitchen space?
Kitchen.
When,
uh,
may I have just a brief moment? She's asking, like, when you have more students, because we're seeking more students, are you gonna be outfitting it to have more, what she just said, like bathroom space? Are you gonna be putting more things in when you have more students? Because you're building up the third floor, so that
Right.
would be the correct, yes.
But that third floor has to be redesigned to meet whatever the requirements. I don't know the details. I'm not the expert of it. So
But
if
she's asking, if you do that, you're gonna be applying for the
Both-
permits
yes,
to do all
yes,
of those
yes.
things? You're not,
If the plan calls more showers for the students and the town approves, yes.
and I'm sorry if I mischaracterized that. Was that correct, the question? Okay, thank you.
As of now, Colleen, there's no plans for the third floor. The existing two buildings that they're housing the students in, they were just reconfigured. They didn't add any additional bathrooms or anything to it.
Anybody else? Concerns, comments? Bob, anything else to add? All right, so should I go to the, anybody from the audience like to come up for or against this? I know you're all here for it.
This is a general in favor
I
of.
don't think it's necessary. All right, so at this time, I'm gonna need the pleasure of the board, please, for or deny this application. I am gonna make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Call the board.
Colleen Dunn,
No.
Gerard Lycon,
Yes.
Tim McMahon,
Yes.
Ed Murphy, yes. Good luck, guys.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Call the board. Let's do this way. All in favor? Those opposed?